More than 1 in 4 workers from black and minority ethnic backgrounds have faced racism jokes at work in the last 5 years, which many feel makes them less confident at work. Well,
that's why ultimately I suppose they take the decision to leave.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a very odd situation. In 2022, Director of Voice for Change in England, Kunle Ololode, is here with us. Good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
Are you surprised at this? Because, I mean, I am, but then again, we're not facing racism day to day, but it seems very surprising that these things, it's still going on.
I think British society has changed and advanced in many different ways in terms of equality and improving race relations. But there is this thorny area of the employment sector, which has continued to be a problem. So if you look at things like unemployment rates amongst people of colour still tend to be twice the rate of white participants in society. So, I mean, I really welcome the TUC actually bringing this report forward. But I think you're right to actually ask this question, because it is very important at a time when many institutions are putting into place programs and objectives around making changes, that we still have this persistence of people wanting to actually leave.
And that's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously, yes, as you say, there are programmes in many big companies and they hope they're ticking the right boxes. So is this form of racism a sort of more subtle sort?
I think it is. But, I mean, I'm a former trade union organiser myself, and the kinds of problems that I encountered were much more around issues of low pay, developments around training, and the report seems to have emphasised the kind of interplay of relationships, things that people say, things that people infer, rather than, I suppose, more material and tangible aspects of racism. So the issue of how people are referred to in the workplace, I think in the Guardian article that touched on the report yesterday was looking at the fact that somebody said, well, you know, you've got a nice car, maybe you must be involved in drug dealing. To infer something like that.
Now, you see, that's the sort of overt racism I would have thought that we would be, would have been gotten rid of by now.
I
mean, if that's true, that's appalling, isn't it?
It is appalling, but I think that the questions still remain for me about how you deal with those more tangible issues.
Well, you report them, don't you? I mean, that's the point. Isn't there a system in place?
To report in some institutions, in some large companies, yes. They have systems, they have procedures, they have ways of actually addressing these things. But I think for me, again, as a former trade union organiser, my question would be, what's the role of the trade union movement in actually trying to resolve these things? I mean, a great deal of resources has gone into legal challenges around race issues in the workplace, to the extent that it's exhausted some of the resources that unions have.
That's the trouble.
And they've themselves have looked to the workplace and said, well, look, hang on, we've got to start organising much more targeted ways of actually resolving these things informally.
I was going to say, I mean, informally may be the best forward now. If you're talking about, I mean, not in all cases, obviously, but if you're talking about, in a lot of cases, things being comparatively subtle or implied, and therefore maybe not necessarily meant to be nasty or racist, it becomes about education, doesn't it? It's about educating people that what they're doing is not right.
I think that's part of it, but simply the question of regulating people's individual behaviour itself can be problematic. I think it's also about social status and people feeling valued and being seen to be treated equally within the workforce. If you're really looking for long-term change, then those kind of discussions, even if they arise, become superficial. But at the moment, obviously, as the report raises, people are still sensitised to those kind of things and expect to be treated with a degree of respect.
Well, absolutely. It's good that the TUC has brought this up.